Okay guys, today I'm going to work on the E36, and what I'm going to be doing is replacing this profile gasket. That's what it's called, and it's the gasket that goes in between the oil filter housing and the block of the motor. If you have oil issues on the driver's side of your engine, chances are good that it's this gasket here that's in between the housing and the block has gotten old and brittle and allowing oil to seep, and it runs down and get all under the oil pan. It's kind of noisy today, kind of windy, a lot of animals in the background, so forgive me if you can't hear me clearly. So here's what we're going to do. The very first thing we're going to do is disconnect the battery in the back for safety reasons. Now, I have this quick disconnect, and make sure you have your radio code before you do this. I have this quick disconnect right here, but I'm going to actually go ahead and remove both cables, or actually the power cable only, from the battery. That way, up in the front, as I remove the wires from the alternator, I don't get myself shocked or cause a spark if it hits up against. Okay guys, girls, here's what I have. I have a 10mm wrench, and I have a 6mm socket. The 10mm wrench is going to be used to take these nuts loose right here. You can also use a socket. They're not tight. And I also have a magnetic tray. I'm going to go ahead and disconnect this, twist it, get it out of the way. This right here, you loosen it up, pull it up. Then I'm loosen up the worm clamp. Kind of hard doing it with one hand. So and as you can see, that's all it takes, and the whole thing comes out as an assembly. Okay guys, I'm getting ready to remove the serpentine belt. I have a 16mm socket, and I got the longest ratchet I had for better leverage. I put it inside the spring-loaded tensioner, and if I can hold this, and I'm going to push down on it, taking the tension off the belt, and ease up on it. And that's all it takes. So the belt is off, and now I can work on those two bolts for the alternator, and also disconnecting the battery wires on the back of the alternator. Once you take the two bolts out, all you have to do then is pull up on the alternator and turn it on its side so you can get to the back cover where the battery cables attach. Disconnect the two and remove the alternator from the engine compartment. When you take these nuts off to remove the cables, be sure to put the nut back on the alternator so that they stay with the alternator and not get lost. Okay, pretty much that's it. The alternator is out. So if all you have to do is replace your alternator, at this point you can put the new alternator in the reverse order in which we just took it out. Now if you press it on to change that gasket, there's a couple of things you're going to have to do and take note of. Part of the bracket, the housing itself, is sandwiched in between the power steering pump itself. You have two bolts here. They're 13 millimeter. One here and one here. And then the bracket slides out from in between, or the housing will slide out from in between. So you have these two brackets, and then you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 bolts actually holding it to the block. Then of course you have your banjo bolt back there in the back. And let me get me a wrench and I'll tell you what size that is. Okay, the wrench for the banjo bolt is 19 millimeters. Each one of these bolts is a 13 millimeter. And the bolt here is 13 millimeter. Now, before I begin loosening the bolts, I'm going to loosen the oil filter cap so that any oil inside of here can drain back into the block, so it doesn't be real messy once I get ready to take it off. Mind you, these bolts are of different lengths, so you may want to get a piece of cardboard so that you can punch them in the cardboard in the exact same area, so when you go to put them back in, you can put them back in the right location. I'll grab a piece of cardboard to show you what I'm talking about. Alright guys, I've taken the bolts out and I've removed the oil filter housing from the block, and as you can see, part of the rubber gasket is brittle, still stuck on there. And of course, I've only spilled just a little oil. And the back of the oil gasket housing is right outside. I hope this shows up good for you guys. So clean. I can see the reflection in that, so I'm sorry about that, guys. take it in. Sunlight. Here we go. How about that? Alright guys, what I'm going to use to clean it up is mineral spirits. This stuff is extremely good at cleaning surfaces and removing oil. This 5-speed transmission out of an E30, I mean, it was caked on really bad. And I sprayed it on and let it sit for about an hour, and it got it this clean. I think I have pictures before and after. I'll post them so you can see. But I got this from Ace Hardware, and I'm going to use it to clean up the gasket surfaces on the housing and on the block before I install the new gasket and put it back on the motor. Excellent stuff. Okay, I've put the new gasket in place. All the gasket surfaces are clean, and I am considering putting a little bit of this on the outer edge to help with future sealing. But other than that, I'm going to put everything back together in reverse order. Okay guys and girls, I've reinstalled the oil pump, the oil filter bracket, housing, whatever you want to call it. And now I'm going to connect the Vanos oil supply line on the back, and after that I will put the tape around my wire, put me a large Ziploc bag over this throttle body opening, and I'm going to pressure wash this side of the engine compartment. Make sure I tighten this down and close that up. As a matter of fact, let me go ahead and do that now. This is 36 millimeters. This is what I used, or this is what I use when I do my oil changes. Fits right on there. Okay guys, just a little more information before I button everything up. Today's date is May the 13th, 2015. It is a Wednesday, and this here is Chattanooga, Tennessee.